ngayon, chapter 1 is yung introduction ng animal nutrition. Ito yung mga topics na i-discuss natin for the introduction. We get to know the science of animal nutrition, the functions of feeds, relationships between animals and its feeds, as well as yung status of livestock and feed industry. So it starts from ingesting the feed. By the way, we call the food of the animal as feed. Okay? So ang gagamitin natin throughout the semester for ANSE 102 is feed. Okay? So series of processes by which yung animal i-ingest yung feed, and after ingestion, there happens mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. And after digestion, what happens is, of course, the nutrients are being absorbed by particularly the small intestines, okay, which are the key players of nutrient absorption. And yung mga water, so of course, aside from nutrient absorption, meron din namang water na portion ang ating feeds. And yung water absorption that is played by the large intestines. Okay? So, for promoting growth, bakit in-study natin yung animal nutrition? Of course, gusto natin lumaki yung hayop. Gusto natin mag-develop yung hayop. Para, ano ba yung goal natin? Bakit tayo nag-aalaga ng hayop? Of course, in everything that we do in production, we have to have profit. That is one of the aims or goals why we manage or why we take care of our animals. For profit. Siyempre, higher growth rate, that is equivalent to higher profit. Okay? This involves, sabi ko nga kanina, various chemical reactions and physiological processes which transform foods or feeds into body tissues and activities. So we will be studying the Krebs cycle, the glycolysis, etc. This also deals with the composition and characteristics of the material. Ang material na sinasabi dito ay yung feed resources, feedstuffs, or the feed materials that will be consumed by the animal. Yun nga yung sinasabi natin kanina na feed composition, nutrient composition of the feeds. What are the characteristics? Meron ba siyang toxic substances? Or pwede ba siyang ipakain raw? Or dapat ba kailangang lutuin? Etc. And the manner in which this material is metabolized in the digestive tract and body cells of monogastric animals, ruminants, and lower digestive tract fermenters. Okay? Now, why do we study animal nutrition? Sabi ko nga kanina, for growth, for promoting growth. Kasi gusto natin ng profit, di ba? Aside from that, we also have to sustain life. Kasi, so yung growth given na yan, that's one of the primary aims why we produce animals. Profit nga, sabi ko. But we also have to sustain life kasi we have to perpetuate species. Kahit nga sa tao, we have to sustain life also. So there's that term reproduction. Kailangan nilang dumami to conserve our animal genetic resources. Kasi kung hindi natin sustain ang kanilang species, mawawala sila. Saan tayo kukuha ng food? Diba? The animals are our sources of food. Most especially yung farm animals natin. By the way, what we study in animal nutrition is yung farm animals natin. Specifically what? Yung ruminants natin, large and small ruminants. You have the cattle, dairy cattle, beef cattle, what else? The buffalo, or what we call the carabao in the Philippines. We also have the sheep and the goat. Poultry species, we have the rabbit, the chicken, the duck, the quail, etc. And our monogastric animals, yung swine natin, no? Or yung pigs. We also have yung pseudoruminants natin na horse. Okay? So yun, we have to conserve them. And by providing the right nutrition, we can sustain life, as well as yung health and their productivity. Okay? Next, meeting livestock nutritional requirements, sabi ko nga kanina, to improve performance of neonatal, growing, finishing, and breeding animals. Kasi yung buntis na animal, nakakakuha na ng nutrients from the dam. Okay? From the dam. Kaya, na-include dito yung neonatal. Okay? So, we have to meet their nutritional requirements. Another goal pala in animal nutrition is not only meeting the nutritional requirements, but also we have to minimize cost. Minimize cost from what? From the feed resources from our raw materials. Ang raw materials natin, say for example, rice bran. Ano yung mga feed materials na gagamitin natin to formulate our feeds or formulate our rations in order to meet the nutritional requirements or nutritional needs of the animal. So we have to minimize costs. Siyempre, we have, say for example, dalawang sources ng protein. We have the fish meal and ipil-ipil leaf meal. Mas mahal ang fish meal kaysa ipil-ipil leaf meal. So, pero they have different nutrient composition when it comes to crude protein. So, it's on your part to decide. Maraming factors in deciding which to use. The price or the cost of the material that you are going to use, the protein composition na nandun, and yung availability ng feed materials mo. So maraming factors in deciding which of the feed materials you're going to combine, you're going to mix to produce a ration or a diet. Next, ration, yan, nasabi ko na yung ration formulation. And then development of feeding practices, ano yung best way para ibigay yung pagkain na yun sa animal. So yung feeding practices that includes yung either dry feeding ba, wet feeding ba, in the form of cooked ba or raw, in the form of how frequent will you give the feeds, or the amount of feeds that you give per head, per day, etc. And then enhancement of food production efficiency. Okay? Yan. Why nutrition? Again, why nutrition is important? This is adopted from Nutrion 2020. Okay? Dependence on humans. Animal nutrition is important kasi they live, or the animals are in confinement. They live in confinement and they depend on us humans to give the feeds to them. Siyempre, hindi naman sila kakain. Although, yung mga free-range animal natin tulad ng native chicken, ano pa ba? Yung mga nagro-roam lang na animals, kaya nilang hanapin yung kanilang pagkain, kanilang feeds. But for those animals in confinement, kailangan nating ibigay yung kanilang pagkain. So, yung pagkain na ibibigay dapat natin ay may sapat na nutrisyon. Dapat yung pagkain na yon nami-meet yung nutritional requirements ng animal. So yun, dependence on humans. Number 2, economics. Economics, profit. No, profit, ibig sabihin, we have to maximize our output, but minimizing, at the same time, minimizing our input. No? Environmental protection. So, we have to preserve our animals. We have to sustain life nga. And because they also take part in preserving in preserving our environment. Not only preserving our animals, but also yung mga feed materials na gagamitin natin. Dapat, kung ano lang yung meron kang available feed resources. Okay? What else? Enhancement of food production, nasabi ko na kanina. Human health, promotion, and food quality enhancement. Dapat, kasi kung ano yung kinain ng baboy, syempre, ida-digest niya, i-absorb niya yung nutrients galing doon sa pagkain na binigay mo. And, syempre, gagamitin or kakainin mo rin yung product na galing sa baboy. Okay? So, may mga, nowadays, merong mga health conscious na consumers na mas gusto yung sa organic na product, na yung animal na na-raise in an organic environment or organically produced animal. Yon. So, human health promotion and food quality enhancement. And animal health and welfare. Kailangan yung nutrition for sustaining the health of the animal as well as the welfare of the animal. Most especially, yung role ng nutrition is dapat babalik tayo dun sa goal ng nutrition, which is to meet yung nutrient requirements ng animals. And this also equates to animal health and welfare. Kasi kung hindi mo siya bibigyan ng tamang nutrisyon, ang mangyayari, sacrifice yung health and welfare niya. Ikaw ba naman kung hindi ka kakain ng isang meal sa isang araw, di ba? Magagalit ka na. Eh, yun pa kayang animal na nagde-depend lang sa'yo. Okay? So yun. And we proceed now to the history and development of animal nutrition. By the way, kung may mga tanong kayo, just unmute yourself and then you ask. So we have here Antoine Lavoisier. He is the founder and father of nutrition. So very popular kapag sinabi mong nutrition, ang unang pumapasok sa isipan ng mga nutritionist is siya. Kasi siya yung nagtatag and considered as the father of nutrition. And at the same time, he's the father of modern chemistry. Okay? Because he established the chemical basis of nutrition. Kaya lahat ng contributions niya helpful sa pag-aaral natin sa animal nutrition. So sabi niya, life is a chemical process. There are a lot of chemical processes along with physiological processes in life. Okay? So we also have here William Prout. He is an English chemist and biochemist. So kung nakikita ninyo, si Lavoisier, chemist siya, pati si William Prout, and yung mga succeeding chemist. So, ano yung allied sciences or related science for animal nutrition? One is chemistry, along with organic chemistry, biochemistry, etc. So, chemistry, because we study nga yung composition ng mga feeds, nutrient composition ng mga feeds, etc. Feed analysis, proximate analysis. Kaya, usually ang kanilang degrees ng mga nutritionists natin may kinalaman sa chemistry. Okay? So, yon. Next. Isang contribution din niya is yung process of digestion. In-explain niya yun, in-elaborate niya further. Metabolic chemistry and atomic weights, as well as yung the discovery of the gastric juices of animals, which contain significant amounts of hydrochloric acid. And itong hydrochloric acid, it is helpful in activating your pepsinogen into pepsin. Diba? Kung maalala ninyo sa inyong chemistry. Next is, he is also one of the first to extract pure urea from urine. Okay? So ano yung common na element na nandito sa urea at urine? Diba? And nitrogen. Okay? Meron din siyang ammonia. Okay? Next. Yun. So, in extracting yung pure urea from the urine, he discovered uric acid in the excrement of animals. No? And he also reported that nutrient constituent of animal body were provided by three principles. So, yung nutrient composition of animal body daw, ito yung major components. So, we have the saccharin, or yung carbohydrate natin, oily or lipid, and yung albuminous or protein. So, ito daw yung major composition ng animal body. And kung yun ang major composition ng animal body, of course, yun din dapat yung major composition ng feed na ipapakain mo sa animal. Di ba? Kasi yun yung kailangan niyang i-sustain. Yung carbohydrate content, yung lipid, yung proteins. Kaya kapag darating na tayo sa ration formulation, mataas yung percentages ng carbohydrates or yung energy feeds and then yung proteins ng animal. Okay? Okay, next we have, in the mid-19th century, Chauset discovered that pigeons fed with low calcium diet had poor bone development. So siya yung nagsimula ng mga calcium studies na tiningnan niya na ay kapag bibigyan mo ng pagkain yung pigeons na mababa yung calcium content niya ay magkakaroon ng poor bone development. Which is true nowadays, di ba? Tama naman yung sinabi niya. Kaya ang mga most especially yung mga layer hens natin, mataas yung calcium content ng kanilang feeds para maiwasan yung soft-shelled eggs. Okay? And same is true sa mga breeder feeds natin. Mas din yung component ng calcium. Kasi para hindi maging poor yung tawag dito, yung bone development ng neonate or yung fetus doon sa loob ng dam. Okay? And at this time, yung chlorine, yung magnesium, yung sodium, potassium, and sulfur were also known during this period, nung mid-19th century. And then, specifically in 1865, Henberg and Stoneman devised the proximate analysis of feedstuffs. And yung proximate analysis, this is also termed as Windy's system of analysis. Ano yung proximate analysis? So malalaman ninyo in our, during the latter part of our semester that yung proximate analysis, ginagawa yan para ma-determine ilan ang percent protein ng feeds, ilan yung nitrogen-free extract, ilang percent yung crude fiber, ilang percent yung ganito. Lahat ng nutrients, ma-determine mo yung percentage by conducting yung proximate analysis. Okay? And then in late 19th century, Takaki discovered that beriberi disease, if you're familiar with that, can be prevented by dietary supplementation. Yun, siya yung nakadiscover. And then from then on, all the vitamins were discovered, no? Especially in the period 1910 to 1950. Kasi ang nakita dito, merong vitamin deficiency sa mga taong merong beriberi disease. And you will discover what vitamin is deficient in beriberi disease. Okay? And then in late 19th century, Stephen Babcock conducted first feeding experiments with single plants. Okay? Sabi niya, all the grain and forage were from either corn or wheat plants. So yun yung ginamit niya as source of energy. And stimulated the use of the purified diet method, which resulted in the discovery of the vitamins. So sabi nga kanina, from then on, doon na nagsimula yung pag-aaral tungkol sa vitamins hanggang sa merong vitamin B1, B2, B3, etc. until B12. Okay? And in the 20th century, which is yung mga 1990s na, 1991, 1992, etc., further discovery ng mga nutrients. So, we started from the calcium, tapos bumalik ay nag-proceed siya sa chlorine, magnesium, sodium, potassium, etc., sulfur. So, yung mga in-study nila na elements. And then, sa vitamins. And then, sunod is nutrients na. Yung mga major nutrients na, yung mga carbohydrates, in-study nila. What else? Proteins, major nutrients. Lipids, minerals, etc. Yun. And feeding standards. Yung feeding standards, ano yung nilalaman ng feeding standards? Ang nilalaman ng feeding standards, nutrient requirements ng animal, and for every stage, for starter stage, for grower stage, for finisher stage, for breeder stage, for lactation stage, for layer stage, nandun yung feeding standards. Okay? Kasama na rin ng feeding standards yung ilang percent ng crude protein ang ibibigay mo at this stage. Yun. And dapat kasama na rin ng feeding standards yung nutrient composition ng mga feed materials natin. So makikita niyo exciting yung paggamit ng feeding standards. And then livestock feeds, yan. So, and then balanced rations with the use, of course, of ration formulation. And then, early 20th century, which is still a part of 19-something, di ba? 1910 to 1950 yung discovery ng vitamins, and ito ay early 20th century. Ang unang nag-coin ng term ng vitamin ay si Casimir Funk. Kaya siya tinawag na father of vitamin therapy. Kasi, yun, diniscover niya yung vitamins at ano yung mga associated disorders kapag itong vitamin na ito ay deficient sa pagkain ng animal. Diba? So, yun. So, ano yung term na kinoy niya? Vitamin. Ito yung original ha. Merong letter E at the end of the word vitamin. Okay? Merong letter E, don't forget. In 1912, he originally coined the term vitamin. Okay? So, yun, huwag kakalimutan. May letter E ang kinoy niya na term noon. Although, what is being used today is the word vitamin without letter E. Kasi ano ang ibig sabihin? Yung vitamin kasi pinag-combine na term. Vita from the word vital, which is important, and yung amine, A-M-I-N-E, it's a substance that contains nitrogen. So amine, that contains nitrogen or ammonia or NH3. Okay? And then in the mid-20th century, P.J. Van Soest proposed the conventional method of fiber analysis using neutral detergent fiber and acid detergent fiber. Yung conventional method of fiber analysis. Dinedetermine nila kung ilan percent yung crude fiber ng isang feed composition. Ano yung crude fiber? Why is crude fiber important? Bakit? Kasi yun yung we increase the crude fiber content of the feed habang lumalaki yung animal. Kasi yung digestive system niya nagde-develop, kaya na niyang mag-digest ng fiber. In contrast, kapag starter pa lang yung feeds, mababa yung crude fiber system niya, yung mag-digest ng fiber or fibrous feeds. Okay? Yan, related fields of sciences, of course, major na related yung chemistry and biochemistry. Along with these fields, we have also physics, physiology, because we study yung physiology of the animal, di ba? By studying the physiology of the animal, alam mo kung ano yung mga kailangan niya, di ba? Alam mo yung requirements ng animal. And then breeding and genetics, anatomy and physiology. Oh, this should be one, physiology, anatomy, and physiology. Microbiology, because we also have to check yung hindi naman agad-agad na ipakain natin yung na-formulate na feeds. Okay? And then mathematics, because we need mathematics in computing the amount of feeds that we give to the animal, in computing the amount of feed ingredients that we formulate. So yun, kailangan natin siya in ration formulation. So yun, role of nutrition in animal production, it exploits the genetic potentiality of the animal. Na tanong ko yung question na explain P is equal to G plus E plus G by E. Ipapasok ko siya dito sa bullet number 1. It exploits the genetic potentiality of the animal. Majority, if not all of you, did not answer yung question na P is equal to G plus E plus G by E. Ang explanation nun, which is related to number 1 bullet, is yung genetic kasi mahirap nang galawin ng farmer. 'Di ba? Yung genetics is yung breed ng animal, tama? And then yung letter E is the environment. What are the specific environment? We have yung feeding, yung housing, feeding or nutrition, yung housing, yung management in general ng animal, which is makokontrol natin yon. Kaya nating i-improve, rather, yun yung tamang term. We can improve yung environment ng animal para ma-exploit natin yung genetic potentiality of the animal. Say, for example, yung genetics mo pala or yung breed mo pala, based on research, based on studies, maganda yung performance niya, maganda yung growth performance niya, mataas yung average daily gain, feed efficient siya na animal, pero kung pangit ang environment, in this case, kung pangit ang nutrition, ibig sabihin, hindi mo siya pinapakain ng wasto. Late kang nagising, so ibig sabihin, late mo siyang pinakain. Pinakain mo nga, pero hindi mo binigay yung tamang amount na pagkain. With that, hindi natin na-exploit yung genetic potentiality. Ibig sabihin, kahit sinabi ng research or kahit sinabi ng studies or ng literature na mataas yung ATG niya, feed efficient yung animal, pero hindi mo ginawa yung environment na part, yung management or yung feeding na part, hindi mo mamimit, hindi mo ma-exploit yung genetic potential niya ng animal na yun. So that is what the first bullet means. Importante yung role ng nutrition. Okay? So kung maganda yung genetics niya, mataas yung ADG, feed efficient yung animal, tapos maganda rin yung management, yung letter E, yung environment, so maganda yung nutrition, etc., ma-exploit mo, mataas yung production, mataas yung kita mo. Yun yung ibig sabihin. Pero, kung pangit yung performance niya doon sa genetics or sa breed, ibig sabihin, hindi siya magaling kumain, tapos ibig sabihin mabagal yung paglaki niya, kahit pakain ka pa ng pakain, kung pangit yung genetics mo, wala pa rin. So, dapat, best combination. Maganda yung genetics at maganda yung environment para mataas ang kita. Okay? Next, we have makes annual production cheap and economical dahil when we formulate rations or when we give feeds to the animals, when we provide nutrition to the animals, piliin natin yung cheap and economical but at the same time is able to meet the requirements of the animals. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin na parang sa mga gadgets or sa mga materials natin ay kapag mahal yung bagay na yun, ibig sabihin de kalidad, di ba? Yun yung usual na notion ng tao. Ay, ang bibilhin ko na cellphone ay yung expensive para maganda yung kalidad, para mas tatagal sa akin. This is not the same when it comes to giving feeds to the animals. You have to look at its role in satisfying the nutrient requirements of the animal. Kahit pa cheap yan, kahit kunwari meron tayo, let's give an example of a relatively less costly na feed ingredients. Rice bran, kunwari. Di ba yung rice bran ay mas mura kaysa sa wheat or barley na ini-import natin from abroad. We can use rice bran as a source of energy than wheat. Why choose wheat kung mas mahal naman? Kung pareho lang naman sila ng ibibigay ng nutrisyon. Yun yung ibig sabihin. Para, again, babalik tayo kasi ang goal natin is to have profit. You have to choose cheap and economical feed materials but at the same time, satisfies the nutrient requirements of the animal. Tama? Okay? And then minimizes human and animal competition. Ang number 3 bullet, ang gusto niyang sabihin is, ibigay mo or gamitin mo yung feed ingredients na locally available at marami, abundant. Ibig sabihin, kunwari ano ba yung example na ginagamit natin is, say for example, corn. We have the yellow corn and the white corn. Ano yung usual na ginagamit ng tao, anong kinakain ng tao is the white corn. Tama? Nilalaga natin yon, mabalin mo't nga ituno. Ano ba ba? So lang ti basic nga amok kaya itunom kan iling taom ni corn na white. Tapos ni yellow corn, this is typically used for feeding the animals. Tama? So ano yung ibibigay mo sa animal? Is it the white corn or the yellow corn? So to minimize human-animal competition, ibigay mo yung kailangan ng animal. Yung yellow corn. Walang competition doon na mangyayari. Imbes na ibebenta mo sana yung white corn, nilagang mais sa palengke or kakainin mo, di ba? Yun yung number 3 bullet. And then, lastly, it manipulates feed ingredients for effective nutrient utilization. Dito sa part na to, isipin mo din yung animal. Na-utilize ba ng maayos yung feeds na ibinigay mo? Ang gusto niyang sabihin dito, yung toxic substances, kaya ba ng animal na i-receive yung mga toxic substances? How will the nutrients be utilized by the animal? You look at the digestive physiology now of the animal na pakakainin mo or bibigyan mo ng mga feed materials. Okay? So I hope you were able to get my point for the role of... Okay. So proceed tayo sa function of feeds. No? Yung feeds, they are generally defined as the naturally occurring ingredients or materials that we give to the animals for the purpose of sustaining them. And sustaining them would mean sustaining life, sustaining growth, sustaining health, and sustaining productivity. Okay? So yung function, yung feeds is very important or plays a major role in livestock development. Now, kaya naman, it's important to improve the nutrition of the animals by giving the right amount of feeds at the right time, at the right frequency. No, appropriate use of feedstocks. dapat tama yung bibigay mong feedstuff sa baboy. Provision of essential nutrients, modification of diet characteristics, through ration formulation.
That would be all for this video. I am your teacher Hazel. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something.